Welcome to the Romeo Theater. I'm John Romeo. Each week we present a short featurette and tell you a little bit about the story behind it.
Hi, I'm Mike. You may remember me from some previous Romeo Theater movies like Yeah Dude, or A Typical Day at the Office, or even Big Vegas Heist. Those were all funny. This one's a little more serious. It's from my real life. I hope you enjoy it. We got to the hospital about 5 o'clock Monday afternoon. A couple of weeks before, we had pre-registered at the hospital so we could go straight up to our room. Over the past 9 months or so, my wife Christy and I both had read a lot of books and had a lot of conversations with each other and others, and had made numerous trips to the doctor's office. But none of this had really prepared us for what the next 5 days at the hospital were going to really be like. Christy's doctor had scheduled her for induction about 5 days earlier, so it really wasn't a surprise that we were at the hospital when we were, but we were both pretty anxious. Shortly after we had gotten up to the room, a couple of nurses began preparing Christy for induction. I think we waited around 2.5 hours or more. The OB finally did show up. I believe it was sometime around 7:30 or so. But he didn't show up because it was time. He showed up because he had been called by several of Christy's attending nurses. There was a problem. The baby's heart rate had disappeared from the fetal heart monitor. 7 or 8 doctors and nurses rushed Christy down to the operating room for an emergency C-section. I couldn't go with Christy. I just had to stay back in the room and wait. Fortunately, they were able to stabilize the baby's heart rate in the OR, but the doctors warned me, if this happened again throughout the course of the evening, they would take the baby without hesitation. After about 2 hours, Christy was back in the room and she was resting comfortably. All the excitement had died down and the waiting started all over again. But this time, we were even more anxious than we had been before, given the scare we had just been through. Over the next 7 hours, we waited and worried and slept a little. By about 4 o'clock in the morning, the induction drugs had gotten Christy over halfway to where she needed to be. But out of nowhere, the baby's heart rate dropped dangerously low again. And as was promised, Christy and the baby were both rushed to the OR. And by 4:21, our beautiful baby Anna had entered the world. But there were a few complications. We were told that Anna would have to stay in the neonatal intensive care unit for at least the next 5 or 6 days. Christy and I would be discharged from the hospital after 4 days without her.
Belly button artery. Okay, that'll come out tomorrow. Dr. Johnson already said that. And in addition to that, she has a little probe on her foot that actually has a computer chip in it.
You're a cutie pie. Look how pretty you are. I don't think I've ever had my hands this clean before. Oh, that's when I come in here and do this.
How come the baby can't come with us?
Well, because she's in here. She's sick. Do you like her? Do you think she's cool?
Look,
You want to hug her? Oh, that's very sweet. I think she's lucky to have a big brother like you.
As it turns out, they let us board an extra night in the hospital. And by Saturday afternoon, they let us all come home together. Hey, thanks for sticking around. When I originally shot this footage in the hospital, it was going to be just for my family. But once I started to watch it, I noticed there looked like there was a real story there, one that other people might find interesting. You know, we were in the hospital for 5 days, and we were surrounded by doctors and nurses, all sorts of strange medical equipment and sounds, and we were the total center of attention. This was not at all a typical experience. I think this movie really did a good job of conveying the range of emotions that my wife and I went through those 5 days in the hospital. It was nerve-wracking and scary, but yet at the same time, it was very exciting. And ultimately, it was one of the happiest experiences in my life. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mike, for sharing that with us. I don't have a show planned for the next few weeks unless I receive some new submissions. I have a lot of people telling me they're going to send me something, and I have some of my own stuff in the works, but nothing that's going to be ready by next week. I know a lot of the movies presented here have been my own, but the Romeo Theater was never designed to showcase just my work. The only way it can work on a regular schedule is by featuring other directors' movies. So, if you have a movie you'd like to present here and tell us a little bit about, visit the theater website at romeo-theater.com and click the submissions link on the right. Or perhaps you know someone that makes short movies. Please tell them about the show. Also, I encourage you to subscribe to the Romeo Theater using Apple iTunes or a similar podcatching software. That way your computer will automatically download each new show as it's released. It's totally free. I love to hear your feedback. Email me, john@romeo-theater.com. And even though it probably won't be next week, I look forward to seeing you next time here at the Romeo Theater.
Yeah, dude.